And we are back, and we're going to talk about 5 more competitors, pro wrestlers that went to football or vice versa. And I want to start with Monty Brown, Marcus Corvon.
Or Monty Brown everywhere else.
Right. So he played as a All-American linebacker for Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan. Fun fact, I actually do have a degree there as well, so that's kind of cool. He played for the Buffalo Bills for 4 years, including competing in that Super Bowl with the Bills in 1994. In 1996, he was signed to the New England Patriots, and he actually lived near Stamford, Connecticut, because he wanted to be close to WWE.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he stopped playing due to an ankle injury.
Okay.
So obviously, but he was one of those. He's one of those wrestlers that he was that person, but TNA never got behind him. It's like he was popular, he was fast, he was explosive, and people loved him. Right. And I'm like, why are you not pushing this guy? And obviously with, ECW in there, they could have done so much more with him because it was a big get.
Yeah, it was.
So,
and he also had a lot of great appearances in TNA as well.
Right.
So I thought that would be, you know.
Well, he was a mainstay in early TNA.
Yeah,
people were like, why do you not put the world title on this guy? He's like the man.
Right. Anyways, let's go from your alma mater to my alma mater and talk about Leon White, better known by many as Big Van Vader, who was an All-American for the University of Colorado. Second team All-American for the Buffs. And he played there all 4 years of his college career, and that is my alma mater.
That's cool.
So, it's kind of cool. In the 1978 NFL draft, he was drafted by the Los Angeles Rams with the 24th pick of the 3rd round, 80th overall. And he also was in the Super Bowl. He was also in the Super Bowl in the first season. He got himself an NFC Championship ring. He did retire after that season, though, so he didn't have a huge career. But obviously, he gained most of his notoriety in the professional wrestling world. And if you're a true wrestling fan, you don't need to say more. One of his signature moves, his signature move is actually very well known, and it's actually what popularized him. He appeared in various different
one of the biggest gaijins back in the day in Japan, which is obviously a non-Japanese wrestler.
Yep, he performed NJPW, WCW, WWF, and AJPW, which is All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yep.
And he is widely regarded as one of the greatest super heavyweight pro wrestlers of all time.
Yep.
So, and need we say more about what his career has done? Because if you followed him for the longest time, of course, he's had a very illustrious career. But, again, my alma mater, go Buffs, and he was an NFL player, even if it was just for a very short time. So I wanted to get that out of the way too. So that's kind of what I got. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's talk about one that it's very brief.
Yeah.
But
brief career as an NFL player.
Yep. It is very brief. So it's Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Okay.
So he did play for Ohio State University.
Okay.
And then, but he also played football for the Southern Methodist University for that amount of time as well. Obviously, that's something that you may need to talk about later. Mm-hmm. He signed to the Atlanta Falcons, so we could spin that into another one of yours as well. But it was released due to a multitude of knee injuries. And so this was the mid-1970s, and it was right up to 1978.
Oh, okay.
So, because then he made his pro wrestling debut in 1979. So he took like a year off to heal from those injuries and made his debut, and obviously it's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. First Royal Rumble winner, one of the most patriotic gimmicks of all time, and he owns his gimmick. So he's able to take the USA and ho and all that, and he was the first one to really capitalize on that popularity and actually do it through the government and make Hacksaw a trademark for himself.
Cool.
So, and he still makes money on it today.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's interesting. Let's talk about Laverne Clarence Gagne, better known as Vern Gagne. For all you wrestling fans out there, he was in the NFL after being drafted by the Chicago Bears in the 16th round, the 1947 NFL draft. And Bears owner George Halas actually prevented Gagne from pursuing both football and wrestling, likely due to the fact that Bronco Nagurski was moonlighted as a professional wrestler during the height of his NFL career. Mm-hmm. And forced Gagne to make a choice. Now, an interesting thing to note here is that he actually played football and he wrestled at the same time.
Oh.
So the reason why it was such a big deal was because back in the 1970s, it was as
this
late
is
as
like the 1940s.
Right, this is 1940s. But it was even as late as the 1970s, it wasn't uncommon for professional football players to have a second job on the off season because they weren't making enough money as professional football players. So Gagne doing wrestling and doing football at the same time was, again, not a very it was a very common thing at the time. So
right,
there were some issues there, and ultimately he decided to pursue the wrestling. So he played a very short time for the Bears back in the 40s, but again, Vern Gagne. I mean, what more do I need to
legendary promoter and wrestler in his own right.
Yep.
One of the instrumental people in the territory days for the NWA.
Yep.
Everything there. Let's talk about another Atlanta Falcon.
Yes, and we're gonna stop with this. Is gonna be our last one.
Excellent.
And I think this is a great one to stop on because he is, of course, very relevant right now. And we're gonna talk about William or Bill Goldberg. So let's talk about him. Very well known, obviously a very well known wrestler, but he actually it was actually his football acumen that caught the attention of the WCW at the time. Mm-hmm. So I did want to talk about that a little bit. So let's go a little bit deeper into Goldberg's, not necessarily his wrestling career, but maybe his
it's still
football
right
career.
Because it's still extremely relevant and they push it all the time, and we already know it. But I think a lot of people don't realize how successful he actually was in football.
Yeah, he earned a scholarship to play for the University of Georgia Bulldogs football team, where he was defensive tackle. He was taken by the LA Rams in the 11th round with the 301st overall selection in the 1990 NFL draft. And he played for the LA Rams in 1990, followed by a stint with the Canadian Football League Sacramento Gold Miners back in the day when the CFL was trying to expand into the U.S. So that was interesting. And the Atlanta Falcons from 1992 to 1994. After being cut from the Falcons, he actually played for the then brand new football team, Carolina Panthers.
That's awesome.
In the 1995 NFL expansion draft, but he never played a game with the team. He was the first player to be cut by the Panthers.
That's cool, actually.
And Goldberg's NFL career ended when he tore his lower abdomen off his pelvis, in his quotes.
Fun.
He had hope of returning to the league, but due to his lack of success, was not considered a major asset. Goldberg has been described in playing the NFL as a mixed emotional experience because despite reaching the goal of simply playing in the NFL, he did not obtain the level of achievement he desired. Now, this was about the time when he caught the attention of WCW because WCW saw him playing for the Falcons and decided, and WCW has had a very tumultuous history with producing homegrown talent and saw the potential in Bill Goldberg to be that homegrown talent. And he came into the industry at the height of the 1990s wrestling boom and was a very popular individual in the 1990s wrestling boom.
So, and I guess the whole thing, so I guess this was a big contention as well, is that to do with the title. Eric Bischoff wanted to continue the streak, not have him talk and just kill people. That was what he wanted. But
Right.
Kevin Sullivan, who was also another big booker, wanted to put the WCW title on him essentially immediately.
Right.
Obviously, I believe the first choice was the correct choice because I don't believe we would have the Goldberg legend that we
Right.
would if they just gave him the title that quickly.
Right.
They built Goldberg.
Yeah.
It's like he just killed, developmental talent and then lower card talent. And like it kept going and people like built.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, what could have been
Right.
if they just gave the title to him immediately with all of this?
Right.
It's like, it's kind of cool to really think of all, like, just that drastic difference.
Right.
Where you see, like, basketball players, I mean, Ron Gronkowski knows how to do the showmanship part
Right.
of it. I still think if he had the right training, he could be a great wrestler.
Right.
There is Pat, what's his name? He actually had a match with Adam Cole. What's his name?
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee. He was a college football punter.
Yeah.
Actually, and he was a very sought after punter as well. He had awesome promo, great talent overall. I mean, I don't think we will see another crossover this successful. And we didn't talk about everybody. We didn't talk about like Ernie Ladd or, I mean, the list can go on with people who actually had great careers that just clicked.
Right. So yeah, that was just a small sample again, and we can probably do this series going into the future. But let us know what your thoughts are on it. What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week?
I have no idea.
I actually had like stuff like thumbnails ready, but I didn't download it. What I'm going to assume is that there's a pay-per-view, which is why I'm waiting. But we'll figure it out. So we'll let you know what's going on. So yes, become a subscriber wherever you're watching this. Like the video, we just hit our 100 subscriber mark on YouTube, which I think is cool because we like shot up. We like gained like 14 subscribers in 10 days. It's crazy. So thank you for the support. Follow us on all of our social media. And as always, be
majestic.